Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Tips for Avoiding Scam Calls. My name is Ken Fritz. I work in the Digital Services Department here at the Barrington Area Library. Also joining me, staff member Ashley Sarrow from the Adult Services Department. And so, yes, tonight we have Julie Albrecht from the Wisconsin Better Business Bureau for a presentation on avoiding scams. So just a couple things I want to mention before we get started. If you go to, let me share my screen. Okay, so if you go to the event calendar for this program tonight, I did link a couple of things here. If you scroll down the page, I have linked the Better Business Bureau Wisconsin YouTube channel. And so this is a link to a playlist of Julie's videos. So she'll talk about that in more detail. But if you want to watch the full videos, she makes some great content. Definitely click on this link and it will take you, to all the videos there. Also, on the right-hand side of the page, we have a PDF document with just some more information. If you want to read about how to avoid scams, you can click this link and then download that PDF so you can have that information. Also, we are recording tonight's program, so within the next couple of days, we will upload it to our YouTube video. So check in a couple of days. Also on this page, I will link the video right under here as well. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the chat. After Julie's presentation, I will read the questions off and she'll give her answers. So just type your questions into the chat there. And I think that's all I have. Ashley, was there anything you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's it. I hope you all enjoy the program.
Awesome, cool. So I will pass off hosting duties to Julie.
Yep, looks good. Thanks so much, Ken and Ashley.
Great.
Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to kind of get started and talk more about BBB in general, as well as a lot of different tips and ways to avoid scam calls. So like Ken mentioned, my name is Julie Albrecht. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the BBB Serving Wisconsin, and I also serve as the Executive Director of our foundation. And so we all kind of wear a variety of hats and do a lot of different things. But one of the things that I get to do is I get to be involved with our social media. And we started these BBB Calls Scammers video series a couple of years ago, actually, and they really gained a lot of popularity. We have over 7.3 million views on YouTube and 21,000 subscribers there as well. And really all we do in these videos is we call scam phone numbers. We have a BBB scam tracker tool, which I'll talk more about later, but I take numbers from that tool. And what I do is try to sort of lead them on for as long as possible. So I actually actively call scammers back, which we don't recommend generally, by the way, but I'll call them back and try to kind of take them I'll have them take me through the scam as if I'm falling victim to it. And really this helps familiarize people with the common scam tactics that those scammers take and the warning signs of what they should watch out for. So like Ken mentioned, if you have some time, go check out a video or two, and I'm going to show you a short clip as well in the next minute. And this also helps take up the scammer's time. So there are other people who do this actually on YouTube, and just for fun sometimes is they'll call scammers and they'll take the time out of their day and hopefully try to stay on the phone with them as long as possible. And we definitely don't give away any personal information. I'll make a fake name and I don't ever give away any other information besides my fake name. So that's really important. And again, a tip we'll talk about more later. And after the video, we always talk about the red flags, the things that we saw in the scam call that we take people through. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that real quick. And then now I'm going to show you a little bit of a clip actually of a YouTube video that we do. So this is kind of a compilation video of a couple different, and so here, take a quick look, and then we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling back. So this is the tax liability program line. Are you calling regarding the program, ma'am? Do you have an outstanding debt, or did we get you by mistake?
I do have some debt, but I'm not sure how you guys got my information.
Okay, so our marketing department, right now the tax season is coming up. They got information through the IRS database. We are a private firm. Our tax specialist will be able to review your case with you, give you options, but there's no obligation or commitment. Again, it's a free consultation just so you can know where you stand and what your options are to resolve it.
Is that the name of the company, Tax Resolution Firm?
Right. But we work with licensed tax agents, so there's different agents throughout the states. We just kind of pre-qualify the individuals and they transfer them over to the tax specialist. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to speak with one?
Sure.
Okay. So what state are you calling from?
Wisconsin.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just going to say, I don't know if you're a football fan. Come on. Green Bay is my team.
Thank you for calling Northern Security. This is Sam Williamson here. How are you doing today?
Well, I think renew, I guess I'm not sure what the best thing for me to do would be.
Okay. So, madam, you need to have that services for your computer, so say from the external viruses, okay?
Okay. What is the cost to renew?
Yeah, it's a $200.
$200 for a year.
Yes, right. Will you please open up your Google Chrome?
Okay.
It should be
.com.
.com, right.
So this is a cancellation for Norton antivirus, right?
Yeah.
So
yes,
why
correct,
wouldn't I go
absolutely
to
correct.
that website? Why wouldn't I go to the Norton?
Sorry?
Why wouldn't I go
No,
to?
ma'am. Because see, in that page,
So I'm one of those
Okay.
people that's really worried about scams and, like security of my computer and stuff like that.
no, madam, no. Okay.
But what if this is a scam or something?
No, absolutely not.
All right, miss, I have checked everything for you, and it seems like there is a breach on your network, which means that it's an attempt of hacking which has taken place. So are you aware about this?
No, I'm not.
Miss, I can see here the hackers are continuously trying to attack on your identity and the devices. All right. So do one thing, just press the Windows key. You need to hold it and you need to press another key, which is R for Richard.
As soon as I Google this,
Can you read it?
Windows
What it
R
says?
button, there's
The
a
box?
ton of things that say, don't, scammers will do this, warning. All right, I'll get back to the call now. I'm sorry, it's a little hard for me to see it. www.
So I believe that, yeah.
Oh, wait, is this downloading something onto my computer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've just because of scams and stuff like that, you're not supposed to download things on the computer.
Yeah, I totally understand there is so many scammers around the world, right? But the main thing is that how we can.
Well, I would like to resolve the problem. I'd like to know why you guys are scamming people and gaining access to their computers.
All right. Okay, then. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. I mean, you can hear the noise behind him, right? It's obviously like a more crowded call center. A lot of red flags in that one. You guys point them out at the comments below and let us know what kind of red flags you see. So I guess if you're going to be a scammer, props to him for really sticking to his script and never deviating from exactly what he is supposed to say. Huge bummer for us, but I did waste a solid 20 some minutes of his time, so he wasn't able to scam other people during that time. Never give somebody remote access to your computer. It's just not a good idea. Ultra Viewer is one that he used. There's a bunch of other ones. Again, put those in the comments below so our viewers can see that. And when I Google the phone number, he said even in there, Google the phone number to see. And as soon as you Google it, all that comes up are scams, tech support scams. We found this number in a scam database. So if you hear scams like this, please report them. bbb.org/scam tracker is the site that you can go to directly to report them to us with BBB. Thanks so much for watching today. Please. All right, so you kind of saw there the basics of the scam calls and kind of how we go through those calls and also talk about those red flags as we go through them, because and as you can see too, sometimes there's some entertaining components of those videos, and they also aim to educate really, because you'll see firsthand those tactics that the scammers will take in order to try and get you to fall victim to those scams. So it's really important to do your due diligence on that. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again here, and I've got another little slide deck that I can share with you about our scam tracker risk report. So I'm going to go through some of the most common scams that we've seen in the last year, and then talk again about tips on how to avoid those scams. Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second to switch my screen here. There we go. Okay. So again, this is our scam tracker risk report. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. It's a full length, lengthy report, and you can look this up online on bbb.org also, but I'm just going to talk a little briefly about the top scams and also the rise of scams that we had now during the pandemic. So, scams really happen everywhere, every day, and how often you get pop-up ads or scam calls to your phone. It just seems like it's happening more and more lately, right? And so we all experience things like that. And sometimes it's very difficult to tell who's being genuine and who is just out to steal your money. So at BBB, we really believe in a fair and honest marketplace where businesses and consumers work together to trust one another. And scams really undermine and erode that trust and steal billions of dollars from you, the consumer, every year. So that's why BBB is around. We try to really help people by educating them about common scams and how to avoid them. And one of the ways that we do that is our scam tracker tool. So I mentioned this earlier. Our scam tracker tool is a free, interactive, and crowdsourced tool. And it's a really awesome tool that allows consumers to report scams they have encountered, and it allows us, as well as government and law enforcement officials, to track and expose scams and also gain insight into scammers' techniques, similar to how our videos kind of show the tactics and techniques that scammers use. And we share this information through an interactive heat map that you can zoom in to your local community. So you can really kind of zoom into your neighborhood and see what scams are being reported near you, as well as report scams to that tool yourself. And our research has found that BBB Scam Tracker really does empower people to avoid scams. We conducted a web intercept survey with over 1,200 unique respondents who visited BBB Scam Tracker. And out of those respondents, about 61%, 60.5% said they visited BBB Scam Tracker to see whether they could be experiencing a scam. And then about 22% of them said BBB Scam Tracker helped them avoid a scam. So that is definitely the #1 tool and place, if you don't take anything else away from this presentation tonight, using or looking at BBB Scam Tracker should be the number one thing. It's a really amazing tool. You can both report scams, even if you don't fall victim to them, just report them, report scam numbers, scam calls that you received to that, and also take a look at BBB Scam Tracker and see what scams are happening in your area. Or even, if you have a family member in Florida, say, you can pull it up and look in their neighborhood as well and make sure that they're staying safe as well as you. So by extrapolating these findings and multiplying it by the median reported loss, we estimate that BBB Scam Tracker prevented consumers and businesses from losing an estimated $21 million to fraudsters in 2020. We haven't gotten all the results back yet from 2021, but that report will be coming soon. But it's increased really every year, the amount of money that we see that our tools, including BBB Scam Tracker, really helps to save people. And this is really thanks to the thousands of people each year that take the time to report a scam to us. So it's really, really important, even though we all get them all the time, it's nice and important for you to report it so that other people might avoid falling victim to that. So why would people report a scam? Well, from our BBB Scam Tracker annual survey, out of over 5,000 respondents, 97.8, so almost 98% of people said they wanted to warn others. 91% wanted to bring justice to the scammers, and 53% wanted to simply get their money back from money that they lost to scams. So BBB compiles the data from BBB Scam Tracker each year into this annual risk report. And 2020, the last risk report, was the 5th year of our annual risk report. So we're able to look at these trends over time as well and highlight how scammers change their tactics as the marketplace evolves. And we also break down scams by different demographics, including gender, age, military status, and student status. And most importantly, we share stories and tips about the riskiest scams so that you can protect yourself and the ones you love from those kinds of cons in the future. So this is kind of a snapshot of the last year. We did the risk report here in 2020, and we had almost 47,000 reports to Scam Tracker, which is about a 25% increase from the prior year. And susceptibility, this is something we look at, which is basically the likelihood of financial loss. So the amount of money that you might lose from these scams continues to climb. And this past year, it was 46.7%, meaning that nearly 1 in 2 consumers reported a financial loss when reporting a scam to BBB Scam Tracker. And the median reported loss declined from $160 in 2019 to $115 in 2020. And that's the lowest median loss ever reported in one of our risk reports. So it's kind of hard to see this slide, I'm sure, but it's kind of talking about how this compares to previous years, and susceptibility really does continue to climb. So more and more people are losing money to scammers each and every year. All right. And if you just look at what scams happen most frequently, you might be missing the bigger picture of what scams have the largest effect on marketplace trust and victims' wallets. So we look at 3 different factors in this risk report. We look at exposure, susceptibility, and monetary loss. So this is really the BBB. These 3 factors make up the BBB risk index. So one is exposure. So exposure is basically a measure of the prevalence of a type of scam, or more simply, the volume of scams reported. So a relatively high exposure indicates a greater likelihood of being targeted by a particular scam type, whereas a relatively low exposure measure indicates that a scam is less common. Second, susceptibility. So that's basically the likelihood of losing money when you're exposed to a scam. So a low susceptibility rate means you're likely to spot the con and walk away without giving the scammer a dime, while high susceptibility rate, that means you're more likely to lose money if you face this type of scam. And then finally, monetary loss. So that's calculated as the median dollar amount of losses reported for a particular scam type. And we often use median loss and not the average loss because there's often outliers in the data. So one individual might lose a tremendous amount, tens of thousands of dollars, whereas others may lose a couple dollars. All right, and we know that falling victim to scams doesn't just have financial consequences. We asked over 5,000 consumers in a study that reported a scam to BBB Scam Tracker. What were some of the non-financial impacts that they experienced? And about 65% said they lost time. This includes time working for a job that was never a real employment opportunity, or costing precious days, weeks, or sometimes months without getting a paycheck. 53% about said they lost confidence or peace of mind due to the stress or the emotional impact of the scam. And 36.5% said they shared personal information that had to be recovered or secured, costing more time and emotional angst to any financial loss experience. So it's important that while, of course, losing money to a scammer is horrendous, there's also other emotional impacts to scams. So these are the riskiest scams in 2020. And again, a little bit different than just the top 10 scams that are most reported, but these are the top 10 riskiest scams. So the most likely to lose money and fall for are these. So first, online purchase, employment, fake check scams, advanced loan fee scams, home improvement scams, romance. We're talking a lot about romance scams this week with Valentine's coming up very shortly, cryptocurrency scams, tech support, travel vacation scams, and investment scams. So these are the top 10 riskiest scams according to our BBB Scam Tracker risk report. And I could talk for hours about each and every one of these scams, and all of them, aside from probably online purchase scams, have a scam call component. So there's someone who might call you unsolicited, or perhaps they would encourage you to call them via email or something else. So all of these have that kind of scam call component as well. So over about 40% of the scams reported to us were online purchase scams last year. And then employment scams was the riskiest scam the prior year. And that fell actually to online purchase scams. I think, again, with the pandemic, a lot more people have been purchasing items online. And so therefore that's becoming a bigger issue with whether it's fake products or misleading products, misleading advertising. We're seeing a lot more of that in the last year or so. So again, this is a little hard. We have all of this online, but this chart just kind of highlights some of the riskiest scams in a little bit more detail and goes in depth with the numbers for the exposure and the amount of money loss. And if we look at the riskiest scams by each of the risk index factors, this is about how the top 10 would look. So just like we laid out there before for you. And we weren't really surprised that online purchase scams were the riskiest, because nearly 2/3 of all scams with a financial loss reported to Scam Tracker were online purchase scams. And we know that the risk of online purchase scams has really been magnified by the pandemic, like I said. So just in general, consumer behavior has changed quite a bit. In fact, one of the surveys that we did, about 44%, 43% said people spend more time online due to the pandemic, and 57% purchase more online. So scammers really go to where the people are. So they've really shifted online a lot more in the last year, but they continue to solicit people other ways, such as scam calls and email and even physical mail. So these are some of the types of those online purchase scams that were very common. Pets and pet supplies were actually the number one, which I thought was really interesting. But again, I think that plays into the pandemic. A lot of people have gotten a pet in the last 2 years or so. So just some stats here too about pet scams specifically, and then about employment scams. So a lot of people think that especially younger people won't fall victim to scams, but a past risk report actually showed that younger people are more vulnerable and often more likely to fall for scams, whereas older adults over the age of 55 tend to be more likely to lose more money. So older people might not be as likely to fall for the scam in the first place, but they're more likely to lose larger amounts of money. Again, fake check scams. So this could happen in a variety of ways. Oftentimes somebody will, ask you to purchase something and they'll say, oh, just pay this much. And then they'll say, we need to issue a refund, and they'll give you a fake check. There's a lot of different fake check scams, a lot of variations to that. And then this just kind of lays out the most popular scams by age as well. And the chart on the top here shows susceptibility and exposure by age kind of laid out. The red bars note the likelihood of loss, and shows younger consumers are the most likely to lose money when encountering a scam. And this has been a consistent trend, as I mentioned, year over year. And then the chart on the bottom there is really the most interesting. It shows a reversal of trends never before in our findings until this year. So for the first time here, financial loss reported by ages 18 to 24 was equal to that of 65 plus. So these two age groups really reported the highest median loss, which was really interesting. So kind of that middle ground didn't lose as much money, but the very 18 to 24-year-olds and then 65 plus were most likely to lose the largest amount of money in scams. So now we can kind of take a look at how scammers contacted those people. So what we're talking about here is phone scams, which is definitely prevalent, but that's actually only about 10% of the means of contact in regards to monetary loss. I mean, scams happen via phone more often than this, but this is in regards specifically to monetary loss. So even for older adults as well, ages 65 and above, scams initiated online via website or social media were more likely to result in a loss than scams initiated over the phone or another means of contact. So the trend here really is that scams online tend to be more risky and more common. I think that more and more people, when they do receive a phone call, again, a good tip here is ask questions. That's one of the things that I do on those scam call videos is I ask a lot of questions. What business are you with? What is your name? Do you have an employee ID number? Asking all those questions. And if they have any sort of hesitancy or they don't seem comfortable answering any of those questions, that's going to be a big red flag, right? Because if they don't know very, very simple details about their company or whoever they're calling with, then that's going to deter you, hopefully, right? And another thing that I'll hear from scammers is, I'll ask them where they're physically located. And sometimes there are legitimate call centers for companies. Of course, we've all had those phone calls before, but if they are lying about where they are and they say, oh, I'm in, I had one individual tell me that they were in California. And I said, oh, how is the weather today there? And they said, oh, it's about 30 degrees. And I thought, oh boy, that's pretty cold. And then I realized they must be talking about degrees in Celsius because they weren't actually from the US. And wherever they were located, most other countries measure degrees in Celsius. So it was just interesting. Again, a nice little red flag that pointed out to me, I think he's lying about where he's located. Plus, it took some time to think about what the temperature was there. Whereas, most of us, we know how cold it is right now outside, right? So anytime they take a long time to respond or they seem unsure, that's often a red flag there too. So again, this is just from the risk report showing the payment method used based on those reporting money loss to BBB Scam Tracker. And the use of online payment systems really spiked in 2020, up 13% back from 2018 and 19%. I'm sorry, 13% in 2018 and 19% in 2019 to over 31% in 2020. So credit card continues to be the most common payment method used in monetary loss from scams, but that's just barely ahead of several online payment systems, which include PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo as well. Interestingly, too, payment by prepaid credit cards and gift cards, and then also payments by wire transfer dropped dramatically to 4% and 2.5% respectively, which is about half of what they were back in 2019. So that's good news. That's always one of our tips too. A nice little tidbit here. Always question if there's a request to pay via gift card or a request for a wire transfer. That is almost always a red flag. Any legitimate company would never require that you pay in a gift card. Most legitimate companies won't require that you wire transfer. They're going to have options for you. They're not going to specifically need you to pay in one particular way. So if they say you need to go to Walgreens and get a gift card, or you need to wire transfer me via Western Union or buy a Green Dot card, any of those things should definitely be an initial red flag for you, because that is just not typically what businesses do. And they're usually very legitimate. Businesses will always encourage you, to pay whichever way you'd like, not use a gift card specifically. Also interesting, we talk a lot about impersonation scams, and those are often the biggest ones we see via phone. So these are the most impersonated companies, the top 10 and most impersonated companies. It's just a really common tactics that scammers will use to gain the trust of individuals, right? Because there's trust behind these large companies. Who hasn't purchased something on Amazon? Most people have purchased something on Amazon. And so people are going to trust that business and trust if you get communications from a larger company like that. So once again, the Social Security Administration, that's common from past years as well, was the most impersonated organization, followed by Amazon. And again, Amazon impersonations really spiked in 2020, not surprisingly, because of people's online shopping habit and shifts thanks to the pandemic. So a lot of people who reported to Scam Tracker noted elaborate fake Amazon sites. So that'll oftentimes be the case. Even if you get a phone call or if you just go online, there are fake websites out there, unfortunately, that really look like the true website. I talked about this recently with the Super Bowl coming up too, with merchandise. So there will be fake merchandise websites, fake ticket websites, all those kinds of things for people who are interested in attending or purchasing merchandise in regards to the Super Bowl. So there's a couple tips for you here where you can look. If you go online, you always want to see the HTTPS in the URL. So that S stands for secure. You want to always make sure to see that in the URL to make sure that you're on a legitimate and secure website. And also check for the contact information. There should always be somewhere a contact form or contact information, maybe copyright on the bottom. Just be very careful with the spelling too in the URL. They might spell Amazon.com, but have a S instead of a Z, or things like that. Little ways to kind of throw you off to where maybe if you're not paying attention, you might think that it's a legitimate website. So we talked to a little bit before about some of the other factors besides just simply losing money. So feeling that financial distress, feeling lonely, panicking during stressful situations. One of the things that we talk about with romance scams, as I mentioned, Valentine's Day coming up, we were talking about this. And, scammers, unfortunately, in a true romance scam or romance fraud, they will really prey on your emotions. They will prey on how you're feeling. And it really can be devastating when you realize that was fake and that was not real. Also, scammers will use tactics like encouraging you to act quickly, act now. The grandparent scam, for example, where a scammer will call you and say, your grandson Jimmy is in the hospital and we need to pay this bill, or your grandson is in jail and we need bail now. You're immediately going to feel a little panicked, like, wait, what's happening? Oh my goodness. Just panicking during those stressful situations can really have a difficult effect on you emotionally. And also you're more likely to make a emotional and rash decision that you may not normally make. You might think more logically about that, but because the scammer is encouraging you to act now, act fast, quickly, you can sometimes slip up, and it's easier to fall for scams than people think. So some factors that appear to decrease risk include asking questions, like I said. So when you're unfamiliar, ask questions. Believing individuals can influence and empower their own lives, believing institutions get their authority from individuals, and being skeptical when dealing with new situations. So these are all good ways to reduce the likelihood of losing money or even falling victim to a scam. And two, multiple protective behaviors can reduce the likelihood of someone falling victim to a scam. So we asked both consumers who had avoided financial loss and those who actually fell victim what they believed helped them or would help them avoid losing money to scammers. And a common theme we've heard from individuals as well as practitioners and media sources is that it's really important to know about the different kinds of scams, which you can see was the number one response from those that experienced a financial loss of things they thought would help them. So again, I felt something wasn't right about the situation. I knew about the methods and scams in general. All of those things can really help avoid a loss. So just simply knowing about the scams and the types of scams that go on, they really are cyclical as well. So right now, as I mentioned, we're talking about romance scams, we're talking about tax scams. There's a lot of different scams out there. And in fact, if you go to bbb.org/scam tips, that's going to show you a ton of different scams, all the different types. I think there's like 21 listed on there, and then give you some tips on how to avoid those. So that's a great thing to check out as well. The more you can be educated and aware of these scams, the more likely you are to avoid them for yourself. So as I mentioned before, you can go to bbb.org/risk report in order to download this risk report. We'll also be having a new one coming out with the 2021 statistics, probably sometime in March. So that's very exciting. And hopefully this information gave you some good tips on the common scams that happen to people and kind of how to avoid them. So that's pretty much it for my presentation here, Ken. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to answer anything, or if you've seen any scams recently that you wanted to tell me about or talk about, I'm happy to discuss those. And as I mentioned before, to be sure to go to bbb.org/scam tracker and report those scams to us that you see, because they really, really do help us. If we get enough scam reports on a particular scam, we can put out a press release to our local media and warn other people that way. We'll put information on our website. And if we keep getting the same type of scam report in a particular location, we also report that to local law enforcement. So that's something that I'd encourage you to do if you do ever fall victim to a scam, or if you know somebody who does, definitely contact local law enforcement if there's a monetary loss. That's also important. And we work directly with them as needed for some of our investigations and our other scam reports. So go to our website, let us know what you see, what you hear, report scams, and just be educated on some of the main scams that are out there. And that's really going to help you to avoid falling victim to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. Great presentation. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste my link that I discussed earlier into the chat so that everyone can click on that, so you can have access to those links I was talking about as well.
Great.
Yeah, and so, yeah, if there's any questions, go ahead and type those into the chat.
It looks like Sandy has her hand raised. I don't know if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine with me if she wants to talk.
Yeah, Sandy, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Last week I received emails from Comcast and Best Buy that I knew were scams. So I called those two companies to see where I could forward the emails. Should they be reported to the Better Business Bureau too, or should they not? Well, should they be reported to multiple places?
That's a great question. Yeah, there are multiple places that you can report scams. Being from BBB, I'm biased, but I'd say yes, absolutely report them to us, especially if they are mailers. That's another thing where the scam tracker tool comes in handy, because you can zoom into your local neighborhood and see what's happening. And I'm sure if you got that, a lot of other people in your neighborhood probably received it as well. So that'd be a great thing to report. Good call reporting it to the business. That's a definite great first step. Unfortunately, a lot of these, that's kind of an imposter scam, right? A scammer is taking the name of a legitimate company that people know and trust, and they are using that to try to get you to fall victim to their scam. So reporting it to the business is a great option. And then if you can report it to BBB as well, I think that would be absolutely great. And like I said, helpful, hopefully, to some of your neighbors or other people in your area who are probably getting that same mailer.
Your website, does it ask to forward the emails or give phone numbers or?
No, it's just really, if there is a phone number, you can put it in there, but it's not required. It's just a general reporting tool, so you can really give as much or as little information as you'd like in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Anybody else have other questions for me?
If we are all good, last call for questions. If anyone has any more questions. Oh, we have a question. How do you communicate with scammers in such a way that you do not become as bad as them? Let me see.
Well, that's a good question. So it sort of depends on the depends on the situation. I know one of the comments we get a lot on my scam call videos is, how are you so nice to them? Because it is, of course, infuriating that they're doing this. And the reason that they're doing that is because people do fall victim to it, and maybe not a lot, but the reason that they do it is because they get money from it. They get personal information. They benefit from that. So it is definitely infuriating to know that they're out there doing that. But unfortunately, I think it's just partially accepting that that is the case. And again, our mission is really to educate people about these scammers and the scams themselves, so that we can try our best to help people avoid them, avoid falling victim to them. And again, I do call scammers for our social media videos, but that's not something we recommend. The number one recommendation if you get a scammed call is to hang up. Don't even answer the phone, because if they know that you'll answer or that they'll be able to talk to you, they're more likely to call again and again and again. And that's just going to be even more infuriating to you, and also potentially cause you to be more likely to fall for the scam because of just the simple repetition of somebody calling you. I'm just looking at the other comments there. Another way would be to feel bad for them, perhaps due to a personally horrible circumstances. Yeah, that's a good point too. I have, this was a couple of years ago, but one of the calls I was on, I did have an individual, because I'll try, if they let me get far enough, I'll try to question them and ask, why are you doing this? I know you're scamming people. Why are you doing this? And one individual guy, he did admit it, and he almost started in tears. And he said, this is this is what I do for a living. I don't really like it. I don't enjoy it, but this is the best way I can do. I think he was literally in like a call center and, somewhere overseas. I'm not even sure where this particular individual was, but he simply got paid like a regular salary for just making these calls. So I think that he was able to kind of be okay with it in his own mind, because he was just getting paid by his boss, somebody else who was actually facilitating the entire operation. So yeah, I did feel really bad for that particular individual, because I don't think that he wanted to do that. It wasn't something that he enjoyed or something that he got personal pleasure out of. It was just the easiest way for him to make money for him and his family. And so that was kind of devastating. And that is the case for some of these, not all, but some of these scammers. So good question there. It gets very complex and very difficult in some of those cases. Again, scammers do this because people do fall victim. It works. It makes them money. It gets them results, and that's why they do it. And so it's a very difficult and complex situation oftentimes.
All right. Any final questions? Leave them in the chat. Raise your hand. We'll be able to see them. All right. I think we're good. Thank you so much, Julie. This was a great presentation. Had a lot of good tips on red flags, things to watch out for if we do receive a call that is that we're a little unsure of. So definitely reach out to the folks at the BBB if you do find yourself in a situation where you're unsure. But yeah, thank you so much, Julie. This was great.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity, and be sure to report your scams to BBB.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. This will be
Thanks.
up on YouTube soon.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.